become a girl. Sorry, I didn't mute. Yeah, so yeah, okay. Test. Oh, okay. I gotta turn down the volume. Okay, thank you. No, don't worry. So it could be something as moderate as like a teacher says, I don't think that a child should transition genders at 7 years old, and they can be put out of job, reported as a safeguarding risk or a potential terrorist. And you could have chaplains and pastors also saying things that are very like just about conservative marriage. And we've had an ongoing case for 7 or 8 years defending someone like that. So the information is open for everybody, and often there's like wrongful reporting. So that's why we believe it's important to get the truth out. So God's pattern for us, I think if we take it back to Genesis, it's very clear. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, every living thing that moves on the earth. So yeah, we should be familiar with this, and we can tell how far we've come from that as a society, more so in the West, I feel. So how rebellion happens is a lack of self-government, where people suppress the truth, they exchange it for a lie, they worship and serve a different god or an idol, and they approve and practice, and then it's a loop that is kind of continually affirming, where things are going. So what God promises is, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And if my people will call by my name, humble themselves and pray, I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin and heal their land. We must turn from our wicked ways. So this quote, if I profess with the loudest voice and clearest exposition every portion of the word of God, except precisely that little point which the world and the devil are at the moment attacking, I am not confessing Christ, however boldly I may be professing him. Where the battle rages, the loyalty of the soldier is proved, and to be steady on all the battlefront besides is mere flight and disgrace if he flinches at that point. So what is the central truth? The protection of life, the pattern for family, and the place of Jesus Christ in society. I think it's a lot more, it used to be a lot more overt in society that's got a Christian heritage like the UK. So 70 years of Queen Elizabeth, we know she passed a few years ago, and the person, well, the king now is meant to swear on the Bible and make an oath to uphold the laws and the gospel, the laws of God and the gospel in his profession. And then he says, these are the lively oracles of God. This is the royal law. So let's have a look at the Cultural Revolution and what it spells out now, because then in 1952, abortion and homosexual acts were illegal, and now they're legal. 44.8% of babies were born outside of marriage then, and now it's 51.3% in 2021. 349,000 marriages with a population of 50 million. Now we are lower, 213,000 marriages, 67 million. 33,922 divorces, and now we're at 113,000 divorces. And this is only counting the marriages that obviously are real marriages, like between man and woman. So the king now seems that he is not going to, well, we can pray, right? We should pray. But where things are going, he's already been out and about and celebrating. So recently, I don't know if you've seen, but lots of on Twitter that loads of archbishops, I mean, loads of bishops and ministers have been going to iftar, like Ramadan, and not talking about Lent or not talking about Easter. Of course, I personally don't celebrate Easter, but I do think that part of their Christian culture is like very like Easter and Christmas is a huge thing. But personally, like disclaimer, I really I just think it's a step further back lah. Like, as in, I would rather they say something about Easter than like Ramadan, but better if it's like about Purim, about Passover, about tabernacles, all of these. So yeah. Um, so we're talking about a Christian legacy lost. The coronation has the words in the oath has a preface now that says we'll seek to foster an environment in which all people of all faiths and beliefs may live freely, whatever that means, because I think we know by now that what the world calls inclusivity and what is inclusive to them is very discriminatory to Christian values. So now, in 2013, okay, not so now, it's like 10 years ago, it says, Sir James Munfee says, religion is no longer the business of judges. The courts should not try to be the guardians of morality because there is no longer one definition of right and wrong. In the wake of the sexual revolution, judges should now take people as they find them. Beliefs about matters such as sex outside of marriage or homosexuality, held by the majority of the 1960s, are as distant to modern Britons as ancient civilizations such as Nineveh or Babylon. And if you think about it, it's like it didn't happen very long ago, like this whole slippery slope. So yeah, the Cultural Revolution and how that's changed. Abandoning God's pattern, the beginning and end of life. So this part is where there are several examples. And this one is about abortion. There are numbers there. So I'm just going to skip straight to the stats. But the wording of the law is within these slides, but basically you can see how the numbers rose to 10 million in 2022. 98% of abortions are technically illegal by law because you need two doctors to sign off and it has to be a risk to the mother's life or their health. 600 babies are aborted every day in the UK. More than 3,000 a year are aborted after 20 weeks each year. So a lot of them happen past the gestation limit as well. So how many is 10 million babies? It's 15% of the entire UK population, about twice of Singapore's population, based on 2022 data. An unborn child cannot speak for itself, so we must. And there is a very common misconception and argument that a baby is just a clump of cells, but God says that He formed us in our mother's womb. He gave us a purpose. He gave us all our days, all our thoughts and words, He knows and He wrote them before even we were woven in our mother's wombs. So yeah, cultural deception says this is just a clump of cells, 19 weeks. So COVID-19 total global deaths within 28 days of positive tests since its inception is I think it's meant to be 6 million. It looks right if it's 6 million to 925,000. Yet, global abortion stats per year is 73 million. And why did the number shoot up so much in 2022 was because of the pill. Like you can actually obtain a pill from NHS that in 2 stages you would basically abort your baby, but it has to be below 10 weeks. And a lot of women lately have been aborting past that. So they call the ambulance because they're in trouble. And they get persecuted, and then people who are anti-life or pro-aborts, they use that as a woman is going through so much trauma already, like why are we still prosecuting them? But it's said in the law that 10 weeks is the maximum. There's also a lot of controversy around this where a doctor that we defended, he had his license revoked because he found out that if you give a woman a high enough dose of progesterone, I think, uh, you can reverse the effect of this abortion pill. So when he started offering the reversal pill, that's when he got his license revoked, and we had to fight. And it's like these mothers regret, like they want to keep their baby. So what's the problem here? Yeah. There. So he, yeah, there's loads of stories from these almost terminations, and we have, yeah, it's just very sobering, like to realize that you could, as a doctor, your job is to fight for life, is to heal, is to administer comfort and healing, and yet you're not able to do that. Even if the patient wants it, there's something very off about that. Abortion buffer zones, you might have heard that every single clinic, or we don't call them clinic, we call them abortion facilities. Every single facility, within, I think, a few yards around them, it's illegal to talk to a woman. It's illegal to mention abortion. It's illegal to pray silently or out loud. So we've had to defend several people who were who have been arrested for doing so. This man, he held a sign that says the following verse, Psalm 139. You cover me in my mother's womb. And because it says mother's womb, apparently he he offended someone, and we see this pattern of like you offend someone and you're against the law, like goodbye, yeah. So he recently, I went for his court hearing, and he said, I will not, I'd rather serve my sentence than pay money, like people in the Bible could go to jail. Like, why are you making me pay? And he's just a farmer. Like, so yeah, very faithful people who are just doing what the Lord called them to do, and they've been persecuted. So the lawyer that was defending him was not allowed to say the word abortion during his cross-examination of a prosecution witness. And that was January this year. This is a mother who she went past the gestation limit and took pills, and then was prosecuted. And this is like 2 cases out of thousands of women that should be prosecuted, or and the pro-aborts are saying that it's not fair, but actually it's for the safety of the mothers. That's why. Stella Creasy, she's the MP of Walthamstow, and she actually, what this means basically is that she recently tabled an amendment to the criminal justice bill. Nothing to do with abortion, but criminal justice bill means that if we want to protect this mother's rights to a point where even if she got rid of the baby and disposed of the baby after birth, a live birth, she or the doctors and the healthcare practitioners would not be incriminated because it's women's rights or it's human rights. And of course, it that amendment she tabled did not get through, but it's come back in a different form now. So we also have to talk about the end of life. And they say that the generation that killed its children will be killed by its children. So there is increasing pressure right now, especially as a election matter that the Liberals want to introduce assisted suicide. Right now, it's legal to travel out of the UK to get assisted suicide. And however, if you travel with someone that you love and they're getting assisted suicide, and when you come back, you would get prosecuted. So this is Archie Battersby. He was ruled as brain dead on a balance of probabilities, and he had the plug pulled on him, even despite the family's best efforts to appeal the court's decision. And this is a heartbreaking video of how do you guys want to watch it? It's like 11 minutes long. If not, we can always share it around later. But basically, this man, he has been he's been told that his daughter is gonna be taken off life support, but she's capable and conscious at that point in time to make her own decisions to live, and yet they went ahead and he tried to be there when they pulled the plug, but they removed him in a very violent way, and he had like a cardiac arrest like while that happened. So it's 11 minutes long, so I'm just gonna come back to it maybe. But oh, okay. So Sudiksha, it's a case that we were doing last year. She's this beautiful young girl who was still journaling, still writing, still talking to her family. And she said, I want to die trying to live. Those were her words. And yet, so what happened is a physician actually told her that, told her parents and told the court that, no, this girl she's capable, she's able to make her own decisions. So she's not mentally incapacitated. And then later on withdrew that. And because the case was ongoing, he kind of backtracked and withdrew that statement. So 19 years old, she had a gag order over her case. So the parents were unable to raise funds for her treatment. And the trust case on this is that Sudiksha is actively dying, but aren't we all actively dying in a sense, because we don't know like when we go, and very often prognosis are inaccurate. But in this case, it was very clear that she was in a good state of mind. She had a rare mitochondrial disease, and she had alternative treatment lined up for her in Canada, but the NHS would not let her go, and instead insisted that they would take her off life support. So after the whole case was over, the parents and the brother had to go to court and ask that the gag order be lifted so that they can finally talk about her name, what she looks like, and put a face to the name, because she was known as ST, ST, ST all the way. Judgment by Mrs. Justice Roberts was that she's delusional, and the hearings were, I think, in a span of like just a few months. Like there was no way that it was just very hurried. And this is Indy Gregory. You might have heard about her. She was offered so she has a rare mitochondrial disease, and her parents, she was 8 months old at this time, and her parents actually found her alternative treatment in Rome, in Italy, yeah. And then they had all the transport arranged. They had like an ambulance waiting outside the hospital, but the NHS would not allow her to go. And this is a girl who was slated to be taken off life support at a certain date. So the case was ongoing when they decided to go ahead and take her off life support. And the parents' argument is like, if you let me take my baby to Rome, at least there's a chance she might live. But if you take her off life support, then there is no chance that she would live. And um, they so what I heard from the dad is that in the court, when they are going through the proceedings, the judges and the doctors actually have lunch together, like they're very gum, and it's obviously like not a winning case when they when they see how it unfolds. It's heartbreaking. And um the the Prime Minister of Italy has offered Indy citizenship to get her over to Rome. And then the Pope even wrote to the family as well, even like during and after the whole thing blew over. Yeah, so this was a case that was not very well publicized in the UK, but very high profile, like outside the UK in Italy. So how do we make abortion unthinkable? How do we foster love for the widows and orphans? How do we love the elderly, the sick, the vulnerable, and expose the dangers of euthanasia? I'm not sure if we are all aware of the dangers of euthanasia and legalizing it, but the first people who are vulnerable to it, if it's legalized, would be the elderly and the handicapped, as well as people who are mentally like vulnerable. So in Canada, we see that it's being offered as a treatment rather than last resort. So they offer it to children, offer it to handicapped people very casually, and it's often seen as like desirable now that it's so accessible. So it kind of takes away the motivation for any practitioners in palliative care, for example, because they don't the country no longer funds palliative care. They fund the killing of people rather. Marriage and family is a whole other thing. Okay, so manipulating the body, changing the law and the rights of same-sex couples. This is mermaids. Mermaids, they have two campaigners who go to these are schools, like they go into schools to talk to children about changing genders. This, if you believe it or not, this is a man become a woman and a woman become a man, and then they got married and they now have a baby by surrogacy. And that is their story that they paraded. So you can see in this area how things have evolved since decriminalizing adultery and then the Abortion Act. And it's, yeah, so no local authority shall promote the teaching of homosexuality as a pretended family relationship. So they must kind of recognize it as a civil partnership now. And Human Fertilization and Embryology Act, that was a big step for them, and it changed the whole structure of family and what we deem family. So you have 2006, Stonewall issues the first report on homophobic bullying. It means that you could be prosecuted for offending someone, basically. That's what it means. And then it goes on to right now, we have battles over conversion therapy bans, assisted suicide, euthanasia, and abortion. So as with conversion therapy, I think there is a lot of confusion around it, but the church in UK used to be like, oh, that sounds horrible. We have to ban conversion therapy. And Christian Concern said from the beginning that it was a horrible idea to ban consensual conversations. And that's what this is really all about. So I think there is a great need to educate, like in Singapore, especially when the whole true love is thing happened. I think conversion therapy was one of the reasons why they said, they're accusing true love is of conversion therapy. But just you can see how the enemy is changing the language of our times and using it as ammunition against the gospel, because conversion therapy is not about even conversion anymore. It's about actually giving people the clarity that they need to make an informed decision. And right now, from what I hear from people in the scene, like it's you're obligated to affirm gender in Singapore, which is quite it's quite it shows how we have kind of been not able to like how do we then come back from that and take back the narrative, because conversion therapy is really not what people think it is. And what is conversion therapy? If you look at like the House of Lords now, like they often debate on what is conversion therapy and what are you criminalizing that is not already illegal. If there's abuse involved, that's illegal already. If there's like coercion involved and you're damaging people's health, that's already illegal. So what are you trying to criminalize? Yeah. So the consequences for children brought up in same-sex parent homes, 75% more likely to fail in school, 70% more likely to be drug addict, 35% more likely to experience unemployment and welfare dependency. And there is a book called Jephthah's Children that we've published under Wilberforce Publications, and it's a compilation of stories by children who have grown up in these homes that I read the reviews, and all of them say that it's like 4.7 stars to 5 stars, like that. And they say it's heartbreaking. Like every single story is so sobering, and America has used children as a social experiment. So pornography, there's some developments since the making of these slides, and we had a government open call to the government from the government to submit evidence, because it has been reported in mainstream news now that 80% of sexual abuse or sexual assault or rape in the UK is child on child. So it's I cannot fathom like a society like that. And they want to introduce things like Face ID for accessing porn, but then our stance as Christians is that all forms of porn, and however old you are, is gonna destroy the family. It's gonna destroy lives. So yeah, like we had to publish like a guide for people to submit the evidence as well and respond to the government consultations. So these are some stats, but again, like they're updated since now, and I think it's 70% of girls from 13 to 17 years old, they actually experience sexual assault in their own relationships and think that it's normal and accepted. Very young, yeah. And then Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, said that we should recognize same-sex relationships as with the same dignity and legal effect as marriage. This is the Church of England, your Anglican church, and right now they are split 50 to 50% conservative to people who do want to affirm same-sex marriage, essentially changing the doctrine of the Church of England. They may use all sorts of other jargon, but actually the aim is to change the doctrine of God. And we are in General Synod in this room with these colored haired bishops and stating a case that, you're passing something. This is like their court for Anglican Church. So they make big decisions about how to legislate for the Anglican Church in this General Synod meeting. And they haven't done it the right way. They haven't done it the proper protocol. So a lot of people have raised, because you could be a minister and give these blessings for same-sex unions and be illegal, like be actually convicted for it. And that puts a lot of people in danger and they don't know. So they still want to push it through. Yeah. So bishops affirm gender transition. We have a few bishops in the Church of England who have transitioned, like change genders and still are leading churches and stuff like that. Methodist Church kind of went ahead of Church of England and voted for same-sex marriage in 2021. Aaron Edwards, I think this is a really good one to look up. Oh, do you think I should play the sound from here? Oh. The sound? Okay. Wait. I am muted. Think. I think one of these. Okay. I think I need it. Mm. Thank you. Okay.
This is my tweet. It wasn't me attacking gay people. It wasn't me even attacking pro-LGBT people. It was just naming the fact that homosexuality is invading the church, because that's what I believe is happening. Irony that I'm a Bible college lecturer who is... It's an amazing irony that I'm a Bible college lecturer who is dismissed for speaking about a biblical opinion. This is my tweet. It wasn't me attacking gay people. It wasn't me even attacking pro-LGBT people. It was just naming the fact that homosexuality is invading the church, because that's what I believe is happening. My tweet was about the gospel, and it should be a perfectly acceptable opinion for an evangelical lecturer to share, especially one who works at an evangelical Bible college. Here's the college's response, which they made at the time. I think the college, in this case, bowed to the mob and decided that they wanted to denounce me publicly. I didn't intend to cause the college trouble or the Methodist Church, but I did warn them that an evangelical cannot express the view that homosexuality is sinful. So my tweet is just evidence of what is going to happen for many other Christians if they really want to express that view.
All right. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so here we have a Christian theology lecturer with 5 young children. He was sacked and threatened with a counter-terrorism referral by a Methodist Bible college. It's called Cliff College. And yeah, a lot of these cases, we can't even mention the name of the school, for example. So you can, that's just the start of it. Like the Bernard Randall case has been ongoing for 7 years and he's a chaplain. So anyway, I'm gonna just skip through this part, okay? Because it's like you guys actually know these books. They're read by drag queens to children as young as like 3 or 4. Before people can spell, they are told that before children can spell, they're told that they can change genders, or there could be a boy born in a girl's body and vice versa. Right. This is the church's guidance for valuing all God's children, which is challenging homophobic, biphobic, or transphobic bullying in schools. This is published by the Church of England, but they have received guidance and support from Stonewall and Mermaids and all of these like organizations that have been aggressively pushing transgender ideology to children. So we are calling them out on that because how is that aligned to God's will? Christy Higgs, similarly, she wasn't even working in her child's school, but she was put out of job because she wrote a tweet basically saying that these are the books that are being shown in schools now. Parents, please beware. And in a private Facebook post, like her profile is not even public, and she was reported, and she's like a very shy person. So it was very, very hard for her. Like, so the hearing at the tribunal was due to be heard by a lay member who is an LGBT activist and campaigner who has publicly spoken on issues relating to her case. So this is Bernard Randall, and his school, he works in Trent College, so uni level, and his students were asking, he's a chaplain, so the students asked him like, with Stonewall coming in and saying like our goal is to smash heteronormativity. That means smash the idea that marriage is between man and woman. Like what should we do? Like we're a Christian church, we're a Church of England school. What should we do? And he addressed this in a chapel service, which should be a safe place to talk about Christian biblical values. And he said it's okay if he gave a moderate sermon, and he said it's okay if you don't agree with what LGBTQ teaches. And then later on, he got reported as a terrorist, a potential terrorist, and he got put out of job, got reported in as a safeguarding concern within the Church of England, and the Church of England would not back him. So essentially contradicting their own doctrine. Parents and the guidance recently in December 2023, just before Christmas, was a 7-year this process of getting the government to publish guidance on how we should affirm or not affirm children in schools who are transitioning, because people are getting into trouble with the law. It was due to the pressure from this case, Nigel and Sally Rowe from 2017. So finally they published something that was quite in our favor, and they've not doesn't have the force of law yet, but we're trying to campaign for that. Yeah. So judges also have gotten into trouble for expressing that children should be raised by a mother and father. So he was sacked, yeah. This is an ongoing case, so yeah, the doctor saying gender is biological is fired. So I mean, there are countless number of these cases, but it's just why we show this to people is because we want, if you're in the UK, for you to understand how we got here. And if you're outside the UK, we believe that every nation is somewhat like on that scale of like liberalization or conservatism, and in different areas as well. The UN human rights movement is very, very aggressive in kind of pressuring governments of even developing countries to, before they fix their roads, to actually secure women's rights and transgender rights. So I know that Singapore has already signed on CEDAW, and that would have a lot of implications on abortion, for example. So conversion therapy. Okay, so because we're in a church, like let's get to the real part. Let's talk about the place of Jesus Christ in society and how that's turned out. We've now you can see on one side you get these high level cases, and on the other side you get very subtle, like I remember when I first moved to the UK, I was sat at the table with a few friends at work, and they were like, "Oh, so do you have a boyfriend, a girlfriend?" And my reaction was like, really, like I was not used to being asked that, right? So I was like kind of shocked. And then they gave me this look that was like, okay, like it's the 21st century, like what's wrong with you? And that was the general consensus. And that was when I realized that it was a completely different ball game over there. And it's very hard to be a Christian in the UK, believe it or not, a Bible believing, practicing Christian. Like, so how will we prevent that from happening in Singapore? So what Christianity brings is all of the above. Respect for human life, dignity for women, purification of sexual expression, the rise of science, abolition of slavery. I don't know why that was included, but I think it's because it's UK. Political and economic liberty, education for all, hospitals and hospices. Okay, so social capital, moral capital, unique spiritual capital. This is what Christianity brings. And this is what is at risk if Christianity is silenced or quelled in everyday society. So these are the Christian Concern's answer to what's happening. And they've actually set up in Colombia, they've set up in South Africa, in Jamaica, and we offer basically data and resources for anybody in the world who is trying to push back against the government in any of these streams against liberalization. So we have the publications as well. Courage is the flower of conviction. We are God's dominion people. Our mandate is to live for him now. So I think when we hear this, like it makes sense, but then also in Singapore, I understand that it's a very different context. You can't just get on the streets, campaign, and like be super vocal about everything. And there is a shrewd and wise way of going about doing these things. And this is what I came back to kind of formulate. I trusted God to connect me with the right people to actually think about these things, because while we may not be out there fighting cases about doctors and teachers being persecuted and fired, first of all, like spiritual, the intercession side of things, there's loads to be said and done about that. Our spiritual fathers and mothers have laid the foundation, and they have done many prophetic acts over the years to actually raise the alarm and to make sure that the Christian church is not just aware, but also equipped to pray about certain things. And now that I am breathing this air in the UK, I've realized how important it is that we carry the mantle and we don't just let it fall, because that's your first like foundation, like the intercession part. And then beyond that, how do we set safeguards in law and in policy? And how do we educate the church? Like that's a very big piece for me. Like, how do we actually let the church know that this is happening in your daily conversations? Like I've been kind of pushing the envelope and trying to ask friends like, so what do you think of abortion? And a lot of them cannot really tell me. I asked, what does the Bible say about abortion? Like, do you think it's a sin according to the Bible? And like the answers are very murky. So how do we then reinstate the social climate to a place where everyone understands the value of life? Because when Chanvi was actually campaigning against the decriminalization of suicide a few years ago, and I was helping him with that campaign, it was so hard to actually get people to care enough for these things, to actually understand that as a Christian, when someone is dying, like, or someone's life is in the hands of the state, then I mean, it hasn't gone to that point, but the trajectory is like that. So if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So what should our stance be deep inside? I think that conviction is very important, and we have to pray for young people to be bold about what they believe in, or even know what to believe in, because there's loads of arguments on the internet about, pro-life or pro-choice, and it's like they're very well versed now in terms of wokeism, like if you ask them about what the Bible says about certain things, they can come back to you with like another with an argument that is not biblical, just very pleasing to the logic, very pleasing and appeasing to one's intellect. Yeah. So this is all quite specific to Christian concern, but I just wasn't sure, like, I know Singapore we have our own thing going on in a sense. And what I've seen is that people are standing at the gates of different issues. And I would say what I would encourage you, and what I've been encouraging my friends who are faithful, like people in different ministries, is that I think there's a sense of like there's a pioneering spirit when I come back this time and I speak to different people. I feel like we have my friends or people that I've just met, they are uncomfortable in the places that they're at because the status quo is different now, and we cannot be okay with the status quo. So what is the Lord revealing to you to pioneer, to connect, to grow, to nurture? And even if it means your family, even if it means your church or your relatives, who is it that, or what is it that the Lord has called you to sow into, and to make sure that really focus on that? Because it's hard to imagine what's happening on the other side of the world, but I would like this presentation to be some sort of warning that it's come to like a Black Mirror era. Like it's just a bit surreal and unreal, but we need to accept that God has spoken about these things in the Bible, and then never ever lose hope, because that piece of hope and the fact that we have each other, and we have God most of all, and He'll give us the creativity, the strength and the tenacity to stand against these pressures. So I hope this was helpful in some way, because it's really hard to cover everything, but I have hope for us, because we are not like that. Like, we are all humans, yes, and human nature is fallen, but there is very good things in place for Singapore, and we can actually stand up to a lot of these